everyone. Is it actually possible for you to eat foods that are high in carbohydrates without spiking your blood sugar? The simple answer to this question is yes. And in this very quick session, I'm going to take you through some tips and methods of how you can eat foods that are rich in carbohydrates without having that spike in your blood sugar levels, okay? So the first thing you want to do is to minimize high GI foods, foods that have a high glycemic index. Now, a glycemic index is simply your blood sugar's response to a certain amount of carbohydrates, okay? How much does your blood sugar rise when you eat 50 grams of carbohydrates, okay? So you want to minimize foods that have a high glycemic index, okay? And usually foods that have a high glycemic index over 60 is twice the same as eating pure sugar, okay? So if you want to consume carbohydrate foods, but you don't want to go overboard, then you can make sure that whatever you are eating has a glycemic index that is lower than 60, okay? So eating foods that have a GI of less than 60 would give you low blood sugar spikes, okay? And if you like to eat a food that has high glycemic index, you can simply switch to the healthier version of that food. For instance, if you'd like to eat eba that has a high glycemic index, you can make your swallow with a food that has a lower glycemic index like cabbages or unripe plantain, okay? That can help you with that. Now, tip number 2 is to not eat your carbohydrate meals naked, okay? Now, when we say that a carbohydrate meal is naked, we simply mean that that meal is lacking enough protein, fats, or fiber, okay? So an example is if you take cornflakes with just milk and sugar, there is not much of protein, fats, or fiber contained in that meal that is for breakfast, okay? If you just consume rice and stew, there isn't much of protein, fats, and fiber contained in that meal. The same with regular bread and tea. There isn't much of protein, fats, or fiber. So studies show that when you pair these carbohydrate foods with enough protein, fat, or fiber, it can significantly reduce your blood sugar. Okay, so instead of eating naked carbohydrate foods, you can add high protein, high fat, and high fiber foods that include your meats, your eggs, cabbages, nuts and seeds, onions, avocados, cauliflower, ugu leaves, spinach, water leaves, beans, tofu, your Greek yogurt, okay? Everything I've put down on this list is just a quick short list of foods that are high in protein, high in fat, and high in fiber as well. So if we take the example of bread and tea, if you don't want to eat a naked carb meal like bread and tea, what you can do is to replace your regular white bread that you buy from the bread bakery to whole wheat or rye bread, okay? Or you simply make your own coconut bread at home using coconut flour, okay? You have that recipe contained in your diabetes meal plan. So when you do that, you can then add a protein. You can take either hard-boiled eggs or you can take scrambled eggs, either 1 to 2 eggs. Your bread, you should limit it to about 2 to 4 slices of bread, okay? You can also add other things from this list as well. You can add things like avocados, to go with your bread and tea, okay? Or you can quickly make a quick vegetable salad that you can use for your the dressing of your bread, okay? If you don't want to eat just plain old bread, okay? So that's how you can convert a naked carb meal into a meal that is high in protein, fat, and fiber that will be able to, keep your blood sugar down and not spike your levels, okay? So the higher your glycemic index of whatever meal that you are eating, the higher you should add non-starchy vegetables. So just like I said, if you don't want to eat regular old plain bread, aside making changes to the kind of bread that you eat, you can make a simple dressing for your bread, use an avocado, get some vegetables to help you, eat that bread and reduce your blood sugar spike. So if you have a meal that has a glycemic index of, more than 10, then you may want to add starchy vegetables to help with that. Another example can be your rice. Instead of just eating plain old rice and stew, you can make sure that your sauce or your stew contains a lot of starchy vegetables, non-starchy vegetables like leafy vegetables, to help you cover up that naked carbohydrates and maintain a good blood sugar level. Okay, so I hope that this tip number 2 is clear to you. So tip number 3 is you can turn your starch into fiber. Okay, now what happens is when you cook yam, potato, rice, you eat them right away. Nobody really thinks about, putting it into the fridge or allowing it to cool down or whatever. You just cook your meals and you eat them, right? Now, your digestive enzymes, when you consume it while it is hot, right after cooking, your digestive enzymes would break it down into glucose molecules, okay? So let us say that, if you can watch my pointer, let's say that this is a molecule. This is your yam that you just ate. So your digestive enzymes will break it up into glucose molecules, okay? And it will then be absorbed into the bloodstream, okay? Now, if you don't want this to happen, if you want to convert these glucose molecules into something that your digestive enzymes cannot break easily, you would have to allow your starchy foods to cool overnight, okay? And in doing so, the structure would change, okay? It wouldn't be as straight and simple anymore, just as it is like this, for your body to just break open, okay? The glucose would sort of be trapped inside that starchy molecule, okay? And when that glucose is trapped, it is locked, okay? And in that case, your digestive enzymes would not be able to break it down so easily, and it would just be left for the microbiomes in your GI tract to feast on, okay, as fiber now, okay? So we call this resistant starch, okay? So when you allow foods that are very starchy, like your yam, your potatoes, your rice, when you cook them, allow them stay overnight to keep them in the fridge. The next morning, heat it up a little and you eat. You would notice that you would have a lower spike in your blood sugar as opposed to when you just eat straight away, after cooking that same day. Okay, so this is just a simple trick, and with a little planning, you would be able to manage your blood sugars even if you eat foods that are rich in carbohydrates. Okay, so starchy foods that have undergone this retrogradation, this cooling overnight, the structure of the starch has been changed. It will give you a lower effect, a lower spike on your blood sugar, up to 20 to 40%, reduction, and that's a good thing. For instance, baked beans, if it has a GI of 48, but when you allow baked beans, let's say you cook with baked beans and you allow it stay overnight, the GI tract will then reduce to 29 to 39, okay? So that's a great improvement as opposed to 48, okay? So this is just an example to make you see how cooling your foods overnight can change the structure and turn that starch into fiber so that, the glucose doesn't roam around in your bloodstream, and you check your readings and you see that your blood sugar is high, okay? It would just remain in your GI tract and your microbiomes would come to feast on it, okay? Now, tip number 4, we have the second meal effect, okay? Now, this simply means that whatever you eat for breakfast affects your blood sugar spike at lunchtime, okay? Whatever carbohydrate foods that you may have eaten for breakfast can lower your blood sugar spike at your lunchtime. Have you ever wondered why, if you don't eat foods that are high in carbohydrates for a long time, and you do, you would see that your blood sugar spikes a lot? The reason is that you have not been eating carbohydrate foods for quite a while. So we can say that your body has sort of reduced its ability to handle carbohydrates, okay? Remember, in one of my sessions, I said, if you don't use something, your body down regulates it, right? It's the same in this case as well. When you don't give your body carbohydrates to work on, and you then immediately eat a carbohydrate-rich food, your body has diminished its ability to handle carbohydrates as much as it's used to, okay? Now, for some of you, that's a great thing, okay? But the trick is, if you are on a low-carb diet, stick to low-carb. If you are on a zero-carb diet, stick to zero-carb, okay? Because if you are on low-carb and you switch to high-carb, that can have, an effect on your blood sugar readings. And if you are zero carb and you switch to low carb, when you take whatever it is, be it bread or rice, you are so scared that your blood sugar has risen, okay? So we call this a second meal effect. What you have had for breakfast can have an effect on your lunch, and what you had for lunch can have an effect on your dinner foods, okay? So it is best that you stick to whatever meal plan or whatever dieting strategy that you are using, be it low carb or zero carb or high fat, whatever it is, make sure that you stick to it so that you don't experience that spike in your blood sugar when you eat foods that are rich in carbohydrates, okay? So I hope that tip number 4 is clear. If it's not clear, just let me know in the comments and I can explain again, okay? Another way to eat carbohydrate foods without spiking your blood sugar levels is to eat your foods with vinegar, okay? You can take vinegar before or during your carbohydrate meals. So research shows that 2 tablespoons of vinegar, you dilute it in 1 cup of water before you eat your carbohydrate foods or during your meal. It can help to lower your blood sugar spike. Okay, so please don't use this method all the time because vinegar is an acid and you don't want to consume acid as it is, bare. So what you can do is to use it as your dressing. Okay, so perhaps you can eat a salad before you then have your meal. Okay, so you can simply use that as your salad dressing. You eat your salad along with the vinegar. That would already make you full before you then eat your meal. And it would help you so that you don't eat as much carbohydrates. If you have had a salad, you wouldn't eat 10 wraps of fufu right after. You are already going to be full from that salad, okay? So it would minimize how many wraps of fufu you planned to eat, okay? And any vinegar is good for you. So you can use basmati vinegar, you can use apple cider vinegar, depending, whatever vinegar you use is completely fine. Just make sure that you use 2 tablespoons and you dilute it in 1 cup of water, okay? And please make sure that you don't use this method often, all right? Now, tip number 6, our final tip, is to walk after a meal. Okay, we know that insulin is what packages sugar out of the blood, right? But as a diabetic patient, you are insulin resistant. Your body produces the insulin quite all right, but your body is also resistant to it, okay? It doesn't respond to insulin. So as your pancreas releases it, your cells don't accept that insulin, and so glucose is not able to go into the cells. Now, when you eat food, okay, about 30 minutes after you are done eating, studies show that if you move your muscles, that is, if you engage in very little physical activity, you can actually absorb blood sugar, okay, independent of insulin, which means that your muscle cells would not need, in that 30 minutes window, your muscle cells would not need it wouldn't depend on insulin in order to absorb that blood glucose, okay? So as the channels that are supposed to open up the gateway so that insulin can have its effect are not responding, your muscles would then, gather in as much blood glucose as it can, which would then bring down your total blood glucose number, okay? And please remember that this is between the 30 minutes window after you are done eating, okay? So after you are done eating, you rest for a while, okay? And then you can move around your estate, move around your streets, go on a walk, walk for at least 15 to 30 minutes. That would help, with the effects of blood sugar spikes, okay? So that's all that I have for you today. I hope that this is clear. If you have any questions for me, please leave them down in the comments or in the groups and I will attend to them at my spare time, okay? So let me know which one of these tips you are going to be trying and I will see you on Saturday for our arthritis session. Bye.